Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 1980 Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Bespin Security Guard action figure. I loved Kenner's Star Wars figures the minute I first saw them. A kid in my neighborhood had a handful of these amazing toys on the way to school one day, and I thought they were the coolest thing in the world. I begged my mom to take me to the store right when I got home from school, but I had to wait until the weekend, and that was an eternity for me at the time. By the time the Empire Strikes Back action figures were arriving in stores in early 1980, Star Wars figures had become the main toys that I played with, and I was very excited about having new figures for the first time in over a year. The first wave of toys from the Empire Strikes Back included 10 different action figures. I loved the scenes on the ice planet Hoth, so of the 10 new figures, I wanted the Hoth-themed figures the most. Hoth Han Solo, Hoth Rebel Trooper, and the Hoth Stormtrooper. I also wanted the Bespin Luke Skywalker because he looked close enough to Luke when he was on Dagobah training with Yoda, and that's the outfit he wore during his amazing fight with Darth Vader. The other Bespin-themed figures weren't as exciting to me because I really preferred the adventures on Hoth and Dagobah to those that took place on Bespin. Cloud City was a city located on the planet Bespin. Well, technically, Cloud City is a floating city located in the atmosphere of the gas planet Bespin. After watching The Empire Strikes Back, I left the theater with the feeling that Cloud City was a relatively dull place where rich people had dull dinner parties and ate fancy, expensive food that tasted like crap. We just happened to get a chance to see Cloud City during the one time that anything interesting was going on. But even with Boba Fett around, the only real action we saw was when Princess Leia and Chewbacca were escaping the city, and the awesome fight between Luke and Darth Vader, which, by the way, happened in parts of Cloud City where typically only the maintenance workers would ever go. Even when Han Solo faced off with Darth Vader and Boba Fett, Darth Vader just used the Force to take Han's gun away, and there wasn't really any action at all. As a kid, this left me thinking that the Bespin security guards probably didn't have much experience doing anything but standing around while snobby rich people had their dinner parties. I didn't feel like they were much of a threat to any of my other action figures. As a result, the Bespin security guard action figures weren't very high on my list. Don't misunderstand, I loved Star Wars figures so much that I still wanted all of them. So I picked up a Bespin security guard anyway, and I did play with him. Although they weren't my favorites, I have nothing against the Bespin security guards in general. They were designed just as well as the other Star Wars figures, and I'm sure that some people love these guys. And that's totally cool. It's just a matter of taste. So I wouldn't argue that they're lesser figures. They're just not as exciting for me as many of the other figures were. I'm sure that's partly due to their role in The Empire Strikes Back, and partly due to their uniforms just not resonating with me personally. I don't know why, but at some point I ended up with a second Bespin guard. The second figure had so many differences in the face that it felt like a completely different character to me. My original Bespin guard had pink skin, while the second one was a darker tan skin color. The first guard had his eyebrows painted higher on his face, making him look like he was always surprised or worried, while the second one had his eyebrows lower on the face, making him look much more laid back. Lastly, the original Bespin guard had a mustache that stopped at the corners of his mouth, while the new one had a mustache that continued down the sides of his mouth. The new Bespin guard was obviously a ladies' man, and probably constantly bragged to the first guard about all of the girls he'd been kissing. Although neither of these guys ever played a prominent role in my adventures, they did have two distinctly different personalities, before they were inevitably shot. It's amazing how these slight differences in the two figures that would have been completely overlooked by an adult at the time made such a huge difference to me in the way I imagined their personalities. A couple of years later, in 1982, the third wave of Empire Strikes Back figures was released. This wave included 6 new figures. We finally got a Hoth Luke Skywalker. We were introduced to a new R2-D2 with a blue sensor scope that came out of his dome, and a C-3PO with removable limbs so that you could recreate the scene where Chewbacca carried around C-3PO parts in a bag on his back. There was also a relatively cool AT-AT commander, a twin-pod cloud car pilot who was okay, I guess, and another Bespin security guard. This time it was the black Bespin security guard from the movie. It's surprising that Kenner did a whole new sculpt for this guy. They could have just given him a new head, but they actually created an entirely new figure who, at a glance, looked pretty much like the last one, but with a new head. I got all 6 of the figures, but honestly this new Bespin Guard saw very little action. G.I. Joe came out in 1982, and my mind was moving away from space adventures and towards military battles. Star Wars figures let me act out all kinds of adventures from my imagination throughout the early years of my childhood, and I have fond memories of playing with these wonderful toys wherever I would go. Even though the Bespin Security Guards weren't among my favorites, they did contribute to those adventures, and I'm glad I had them. Did you have a Bespin Security Guard action figure as a kid? What did you think of these Cloud City Sentries? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about Toylanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit Toylanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.